All right, we're working in the background right now, trying to turn some volume down. Figure it out. All right, welcome to another episode of the Blunt Force Conservative Podcast. All right, we're working in the background right now, trying to turn some volume down. Kill it. Figure it out. Yeah, this is not working. We should. It's any better. Are we live now? Yes. All right, we're back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We're trying something new here with trying to stream on Rumble and on YouTube at the same time. Also got my brother-in-law producer here in the room. You can actually see his shoulder in the video. The reason that we're back. Sorry for the technical
Is that coming
difficulties.
from your
We're trying
computer?
something new here with trying to stream on Rumble and on YouTube at the same time. Also got my brother-in-law producer here in the room. You can actually see his shoulder in the video. The reason that okay,
That's what it was.
all right, we figured it out. A lot of hiccups here. It's early in the game. Appreciate you guys staying with it. If there's anybody here even watching. It is Father's Day weekend, and I want to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I myself am a father, as well as my brother-in-law here, producer Chris, and they're in town visiting here and brought my dad over. He will be 82 on the 4th of July, so we are a holiday family. And what better holiday than the 4th of July? It's been a busy week. I've had a ton of stuff going on with my private business and some contract stuff. So that usually is a good thing. It's a good thing when you get paid, and that usually happens later on. Want to thank the people at the Rhino Removal Project for having me on. I've been addressing, I guess what you would call rhinos here. I don't really use that term. I just look to see whether or not you're following your constitutional oath. And if you're not following your constitutional oath, then we need to have a conversation. And I've had those conversations with a number of my representatives here in Mississippi, and enough so that they look a little nervous sometimes when I walk into the room. But I don't. Um, I'm not belligerent. I'm not. I don't use pejoratives. I don't. I'm not hateful. I don't shout. I just ask questions. And if it turns out that you didn't answer the question, I'll typically point it out and ask follow-up questions. So that's kind of the way that I've addressed it. It kind of rose organically. I was attending a luncheon here in Madison, Mississippi. It's a traditionally Republican event, and my congressman was there speaking, and I had an opportunity to ask him a few questions. And they weren't gotcha questions. I don't really like when people just try to demonstrate someone's inability to think on the fly. But when you talk to someone about something they were just talking about on stage, they should be fully vested in the information about the topic. Uh, my congressman had a difficult time with it, and it was on some of the issues that you and I take to heart, such as whether or not he's pro-life, dealing with January 6th, dealing with Ukraine. I mean, these are things that everybody is still talking about in the media. And when I ask him questions about it and he's speechless, it's not because I asked him something very hard. It's just, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. So anyway, getting back to the rhino removal project, I look forward to working with them to identify some things. Speaking of rhinos, those of you that have been following my page, each each day, I try to catch it most days. I think there's a day or two that I didn't, but I wish Tom Tillis a I, I just say today is this date, and this is how many days Tom Tillis has in office, left in office. Like today. Today is June 14th, 2025, and Senator Tom Tillis has 507 days left until he is voted out of office. I kind of followed that with, today's this, Dan Bongino was doing some stuff with today's this day and Donald Trump's my president, or, a lot of things. Some people have kind of mimic that in other areas. And I didn't think anything of it. I just posted it. And periodically, if Tom Tillis's X account would pop up in my feed, I might copy it and paste it in there. If I just have enough time, I'll find it, copy it, paste it, put it in there. And then I never really went back to look to see if anything was going on. And it was interesting. I get this call from a reporter for a newspaper up in Asheville, North Carolina, and he wanted to know what. First of all, he was kind of surprised that I'm in Mississippi, and I said, "Okay, what? But why are you even calling me?" And he said that I see that you post this about Tom Tillis, and I said, yeah, because he kind of reminds me of our senator here, Roger Wicker. Uh, I, I do not care for Roger Wicker. I will never vote for Roger Wicker. Uh, I just, I don't think that he has the core uh, to handle uh, what the citizens want. He is really good at handling bringing taxpayer dollars into the state of Mississippi and giving them to the military industrial complex. And that's what I have a problem with, is that he is spending our money, but he won't take accountability to answer questions about it. He did answer a couple of questions for me in November of 2022, and he has not since. I've been looking everywhere. I can't find where he's held a town hall. I can't find where he's sat down and done an interview with someone that actually can challenge him on some questions. He's done some cupcake things. I'm not going to call out some of the radio show hosts, TV shows, and those, and I guess the online slash print media here in Mississippi that won't ask him the tough questions uh, or the challenging questions. It it's just the problem I have is not representing the people, not taking the time to discuss with the people what exactly you what are your intents and beliefs. So see that from Tom Tillis. Clearly, Tom Tillis did not take the time to talk to his citizens about Ed Martin and being uh, when he was when President Trump was going to have him as full time as the U.S. Attorney in D.C. Now, I worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. when I was with the FBI. My first office was Washington Field, and did a lot of cases with the university with the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. And Ed Martin would be fantastic there. I think Jane Pirro, who's over there now, Janine Pirro, that's over there now, I think she'll do well. But I think Ed Martin would have done an extraordinary job. He was doing an extraordinary job as the acting. But Tom Tillis kind of stepped in it because he invoked that January 6th stuff. And that causes some problems now. This is not, right after the election in 2021. I mean, in the election in 2020 and then Joe Biden assuming office in 2021. This is not like that anymore. People see that there were large numbers of individuals, and I spoke out about this vehemently, of people from January 6th they had their rights violated, and they should be able to seek some type of I don't know, reconciliation on it. There has to be some way that the individuals who violated their rights are held accountable, and I would support them in every endeavor to do that. But Tom Tillis decided to invoke that and said that was his reason for not putting Ed Martin in, because of Ed Martin's uh, support for the January 6th people that were a lot of them unconstitutionally uh, held in up in D.C. And I've got a friend of mine, recently made friend of mine, Mark Mitchell, that's with Rasmussen Reports, and he was telling me how bad it is for Tom Tillis in that state, just because of that, because of what he did. And he said if Roy Cooper runs for the governor of North Carolina, a Democrat, if he runs for Senate, that seat's going to flip. It's going to flip, and I believe him. Uh, he also said that there's a chance you get somebody like a Laura Trump. I don't know how she would run in North Carolina. I believe she's a resident of Florida. I don't know what the residency requirements are in North Carolina to run for an office like that. Uh, so unless somebody steps up, I don't know how you're going to overcome Tom Tillis. I think he'll win the Republican primary. Likely, if it looks like he's going to be the only one on the Republican primary, I would think it would be I would think Roy Cooper would be salivating to run for that office. But anyway, getting back to this reporter from Nashville that called and interviewed me, uh, he was telling me that there was a lot of feedback after I would post that on some of Tom Tillis's feeds, and that just citizens, others were piling on it. And I hadn't tracked it. I hadn't looked to see if it had been reposted or anything. And he said, Tom Tillis was wanting to know who I am. Now, I'm just some retired guy down in Mississippi, soon to be grandfather here in September. And all I'm doing is, I don't know, just speaking my mind. I do think that Tom Tillis is a rhino Republican. I think John Cornyn over in Texas is. I support the Rhino Removal Project is based out of Texas, and I support their efforts to get rid of John Cornyn. I think he's weak on the Second Amendment. There's others out there. I guess you would call them rhinos. There's just ones that I just don't think that they honor their oath. So getting back to my own senator, Roger Wicker. So the question I asked him was in November 2022. It was right here in Madison, about 200 people there. And I stood in the back of the room and I just raised my hand and he called on me. And I just asked him, would you support, would you encourage our representatives, especially our Republican representatives at the time, to seek impeachment proceedings against Joe Biden based on the clear violations of the Constitution? I can name a ton of them. Uh, and he said he wouldn't. And he said his reasons were, and I quote, that it would take up 2 weeks in the Senate and we wouldn't be able to get anything done. Well, if you're like me, I like it when Congress doesn't get anything done, because when they get things done, it typically means money is coming out of my wallet. And I just don't want them spending any more of my money. The second reason he gave was he wanted to hold them accountable by the power of the purse, the agencies, the Biden administration. I'm like, okay, that'll be new, because I really haven't seen any evidence of either the House or the Senate using that power of the purse. So come January, uh, the Republicans were set to take over the House. But before that, if you go back and look in January of 2023, they passed this big, gigantic omnibus bill. And it not only gave funding to the agencies that their leadership DOJ, DHS, FBI in the past, of violating people's constitutional rights, not only gave them the money they were asking for, it gave them more money than they were asking for. And my question, my follow-up question to him would be, how do you correlate that to holding somebody accountable by the power of the purse by giving them more money than they're asking for? And unfortunately, he has not returned to any of these events. It's ridiculous that he won't show up. Now, our other senator, Cindy Hyde Smith, uh, I like her. I don't really have a huge problem with her, but I look at tendencies and some of the events that I've seen that she's been at, and in the one time that I tried to ask her some questions was um, was when we were at a Republican breakfast, and I noticed that she didn't get there early enough to mingle with the people before the breakfast. The breakfast starts, and there's some speakers, and then she spoke, and I stood in the back of the room, my hand up. She never called on me. And then she went back to get in her seat, and then I noticed, 5 or 10 minutes before the event was clearly going to be over, she's making her way out the door. So there wasn't going to be any mix and mingling even after. So I told a friend that I was sitting with, I said, I'm just going to follow her out. I'm going to try to ask her some questions. I'm trying to ask her the same questions I asked Roger Wicker. And as I followed her out and tried to get her attention, she just didn't want to talk. She first said, are you a reporter? I went, no, I'm just a retired guy. I live here in Mississippi. You're my senator. I want to ask you some questions. And then she kept deferring me to her staff. And I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that probably she had an emergency or something that she had to attend to. But she put me in, gave me her card to get in touch with her staff, and I have since left five. I've talked with them 5 times. I've given 5 messages. I've not heard back from the senator. So we'll leave it at that. I think just calling people rhinos and trying to pull them, to get them out of office. I don't think that's a winning strategy. I think a winning strategy is you're going to have somebody that comes in to primary these individuals. And you're going to face some adversity in doing that. The power of incumbency is amazing. The reason it's amazing is because there's so much invested from the state parties and from the national party in the incumbency of once these people get into positions as chairman and they get some seniority, they're typically moving further and further away from their constituents because at this time you've got lobbyists and you've got entities like military industrial complex they're bringing money back to. So they don't really need to talk to you. Here's the way it works in Mississippi. And I open it up for anybody if they want to have a chat with me to try to correct me on. I've had conversations with a couple of former governors. I've had a conversation with the current governor. I've had conversations with and state and local representatives, and I've had conversations with our federal representatives. And I can't find anybody that can counter this. So in Mississippi, the last time that we directly elected a U.S. senator into office, somebody that wasn't appointed, somebody that came in and ran for the office, was in 1978. And that was Thad Cochran. And since then, what has happened is the senators are there. They usually retire with a couple of years left on their term. And then the governor will appoint somebody. That is constitutionally sound. They're allowed to do that. The problem you have is a lot of these, it's typically, I don't want to say a good old boy network, but it's a way that you get in with 2 years left on a senator's term. You've got time to go and cultivate relationships with donors, with large donors, and they want to talk to you. They return your calls because now you're the sitting U.S. senator. You are the gatekeeper to trying to bring federal taxpayer dollars back that can be put into their coffers. And those individuals, those those benefactors of those of our taxpayer dollars can then turn around and donate to the campaign. They can donate to PACs that support the campaign. It starts that cycle. So we've had a couple of people here, Chris McDaniel, Gannon Burton. Um, I know Gannon pretty well, gotten to know him really, really well. I don't know Chris McDaniel that well, but we've had some organically raised candidates that have tried to come in and challenge the incumbents, and it's just futile. And the reason being is, again, about the money. You've got the state party and the national party investing the money. So I don't know how we fix that, other than you're gonna have to cultivate groups probably outside your state to get you started and then be able to come in with an overwhelming amount of money. Uh, I think when people try to denigrate individuals that raise money outside the state, I used to think that was a bad thing, but you'd be surprised at the number of real constitutional believing people that will invest money in your campaign. Um, I think that's one way you're going to have to go. You're still going to have to do the grassroots thing. You're going to have to outwork the other candidate, but that's really the only chance you have. We've had very few uh, incumbents unseated within their own party. Um, so yeah, I'll be interested in working with the Rhino Removal Project on any endeavors they have. I just want to get people back to the Constitution. Uh, Speaking of the Constitution and the right to protest, so you got this No Kings rally going on, and full disclosure, my cousin, she's a big supporter of that, and I've just kind of been quiet about it with her. Uh, I I don't get it. Um, if Trump was a king and wanted to be a king, wouldn't he be able to stop those types of rallies? Kings can do that. That just it just I don't think they're getting the bang for their buck. Uh, it's yeah, I think in another 2 weeks you won't even remember anything about the King's rally. It's not going to be something that's going to build momentum like Black Lives Matter did or anything like that. The other is thing I wanted to talk about tonight was the military parade. I'm happy to see those come back. I used to enjoy that in my youth, seeing the soldiers in uniform, the ones that are actually willing to go out there and sacrifice their life for you and to honor them. Here with the Army's 250th birthday. I mean, happy birthday, Army. I grew up reading Sergeant Rock comic books, the war movies. You remember what it was like when you went to see Saving Private Ryan? Um, you, you know, it's I'm looking for that to come back. That sense of nationalism or patriotism, and we should take the time to honor those individuals. The left will go out there and give the Kennedy Center honors, or they'll give the Presidential Medal of Freedom to somebody that you wouldn't walk across the street to talk to, and they're going to castigate people for bringing attention to these young men and women in the military that are willing to sacrifice their life. I just think it's going to backfire on them. The last thing I wanted to comment on, and I probably will get some calls on this from media, is the tragic events up in Minnesota. Uh, I hate to see it getting politicized. I knew it was going to get politicized. It's going to get politicized on both sides. I would stay away from X rumors about anything dealing with the subject of this case. I'm not going to say his name. And I would focus on support for law enforcement and holding law enforcement accountable for keeping you informed about what they're doing uh, on this manhunt for this individual. I can tell you how difficult that is. It's Since the individual is likely still in the local area, you've got to take a look at what resources you have. You've got to, set up grids. You've got to go knocking on doors. You got to interview people. You got to find people that have Do they have Ring doorbell cameras? Anything that you can find that can bring you some information. It's why it's so, so, so important to have an action plan to get with all of your law enforcement agencies. So your crisis management program is critical in this because you need to be able to put that plan into effect. And if you've got a poor relationship between agencies, whether they're law enforcement or just other government agencies, it can make it very difficult. So my prayers go out for them, uh, and those that lost their lives up there. It's horrific, and I hate to see that. That's pretty much it. All we were going to talk about today. Today was just a way to test this out, see if we can get it out on Rumble, to get it out on YouTube. We're just getting started here. It's going to continue to grow.
Say hi to Linda Downs.
Oh, hey, Linda Downs is popping in the window there. I see. It's again, we're still playing around with this. I appreciate Linda taking the time. Said she was in the Navy and watched the 250th Army birthday parade tonight, and she thought it was awesome. That is great. I was Air Force for 13 years. I joined in 1986. I had was 21, turned 22 in basic training, and it was a great 13 years. I spent the last 5 of it as an Air Force officer, special investigations agent. That was my first taste of being a federal agent, and then went on to with the FBI for 20 plus years. But Linda, I appreciate your service. You understand what it means to when you take that oath, and I wish our representatives understood more of that. That just frustrates me that they don't. So things to look forward to in the future. I'm really surprised at the people that God has brought into my circle as I started kind of speaking up a little bit. Not just from where I've been approached about running for office, and I'm still considering that. I don't know, but the some of the people that I've connected with just here on X. I mean, I'm just a small account with like 2,100 followers, but it's interesting, the course that God has put me on, where I've made such great friends like Chris Salcedo, the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax and now on KSEV in Texas. Chris and I have become fast friends. He is truly that liberty loving Latino, and he was kind enough. I shot him a text when I was in the Rhino Removal Project to have him jump in and speak. And I know everybody got excited about that, to have somebody big time like Chris in there. And I'm connected with some other people on LinkedIn that I never thought I would. And I'm not on here trying to brag about them. I'm just as surprised as anybody else that they take an interest in what I have to say. That Anna Paulina Luna followed me first. I still don't know where that came from. Uh, I, you know, Emerald Robinson and I have, I've interviewed Emerald on radio when I've done some guest hosting. So just the opportunity to speak to some people that, I see in the media, uh, and the ones that are trying to affect some change. But this show, when we go forward, we're going to tackle the events, recent events, newsworthy things. Of course, we're going to talk about FBI stuff. We'll probably open up at one time and have some people pop some questions in there of anything you ever wanted to ask somebody that was in the FBI. Uh, I've seen the JFK file. That was something they showed us at the academy. Well, I've seen his autopsy in some of the reports. Um, I had an opportunity to supervise the reopening of Mississippi Burning, one of those historic cases. So that's something that I look forward to sharing with my granddaughter that's coming here in September. Is you know the chance to interact with that. We'll talk about, you know as my brother-in-law will tell you, I don't really talk unless I'm asked, and unless it's just necessary. I really don't talk a lot about my past FBI career. Unless if it's challenged, I will. Um, Had a couple miscreants out there trying to challenge me for my conservatism, and I thought it was kind of humorous. We'll talk about that more on some of these other podcasts. We'll have some friends of mine that have come into my circle. Some of them are names that you would know. There's others that names you wouldn't know, but you should know. But I do want to give a shout out to the Rhino Removal Project. That's somebody I think you should follow. If you're in Mississippi, there is an up and comer that you really should follow, and that's Blake Bartram. It's a young 16-year-old kid. Started these flag waves. I think he's going to be a senior in high school this next year. This guy's got it going on. He is somebody that is going to be big time in Mississippi politics one day, and I look forward to being along with that journey with him. Definitely would want him on my team if I decide to run for office. I just think he's got the enthusiasm, he's got the knowledge. I think it would be great. If you are over in Madison, Mississippi, hit me up on X, give me a shout, throw me a DM or something. I'll let you know when we're having some of these lunches here. You've got a couple of lunches and some breakfasts and things you can go to interact with with the representatives here in Mississippi. Uh, if you're going to be over in Alabama, let me know. I'm originally from Tuscaloosa, so yeah, I make frequent trips over there. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Today was just kind of a test podcast. Uh, we've been dealing with a lot of rain and stuff over here. Got my dad here, was able to get the John boat out and put he and my nephew out in the John boat for a few hours to do some fishing. And I know they enjoyed that. And we're looking forward to fellowship tomorrow with the Lord on Father's Day. And apparently I'm doing stir fry on the on the grill, on the Blackstone grill. So we'll see how that turns out. But thank you again for taking the time to just listen to some guy down here in Mississippi, this retired FBI agent. I have some thoughts on some things. I have got some stories to tell, and it, and I still open up the debate floor at any time on the Constitution. It's kind of tongue in cheek when I put it on there that I'm undefeated on the constitutional debate stage, but I am undefeated on the constitutional debate stage. I haven't lost one yet. I've taken on attorneys, judges, and I've taken on professors at universities, and it's been fun. It's always civil and cordial. I always do that. Be on the lookout when I start posting some more things about Tom Tillis. I'll get up in the morning and that'll be one of the first things I put on there. And feel free to share that. If you like the show here, if you like some of the things I say, put it on there. Be on the lookout the next time you want to see me on Newsmax or guest hosting on radio on WYB here in Madison, Mississippi. I want to give another shout out to two very dear friends of mine, Ada Nestor and Gary Heasley, up at WWDB out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They host the Conservative Voice. Take a look for them. Another to look out for and follow is Mark Mitchell. He's Honest Pollster on X. Got a great podcast. I hope to get on there at some point. Also, Rob Manus, another good friend of mine. I was just recently on his podcast and television show. So I've been doing some hits here. And for those of you up in Nashville, if you've been watching Fox 17 out of Nashville, I've been doing a number of hits up there. Was just on there a couple days ago, talking about the Abrego Garcia arraignment when he was brought back to the United States, and had an opportunity to talk about giving some safety tips for those going to the CMAs. So things are looking good. I'm having fun with this. Uh, I We'll see where God takes it, and heck, God may be taking me on to run for office here. We'll see, we'll see, and I will keep you informed of that. But happy Father's Day. God bless, and be on the lookout the next time we pop this little podcast up. Thank you again.